welcome everybody, whoever we see, anyone that we can't see. I know you're out there. Good to have everyone joining us tonight. Some of you I know, some of you I don't know, but I'm sure I'd love to get to know you throughout the course of the next 45 minutes, an hour, however long we're able to sit together. But really tonight, I am very thankful, first of all, to the Jewish Federation for bringing us together and making this happen, despite the fact that we can't be together physically. And that, I believe, is a excellent preface to the topic that we're going to discuss tonight. Because tonight's topic is perhaps a topic which deserves a lot more attention than it gets in Judaism. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I feel like there are so many things that we have in traditional Judaism that become part of our day-to-day lives because we encounter things throughout the day that cause us to talk about them and think about them. So let's think about, basic Jewish traditions, Shabbat, Friday night dinners that we have with family, holidays. Our daily lives are affected by the way we interact with those traditions. If we're going to celebrate Shabbat, we have to change the way we behave on Friday by getting ready for Shabbat. If we're going to celebrate the upcoming holiday of Shavuot, we're going to have to celebrate the holiday. But Judaism, the topic that we're going to discuss is a topic which we don't necessarily encounter every day, and therefore it doesn't get the proper attention that it deserves. So my goal is going to be just a little bit of an icebreaker, just to get it to be something that I hope when we finish talking about it, everyone's a little more comfortable talking about it and bringing it up. I also hope that throughout the course of our discussion, and I really hope to spark some discussions, that if you have any conversation, please ask a question, jump on in. No question is off the table, there's no holds barred, everything is on the table. So feel free to jump on in with a question if you have. Something taboo which you heard, we can do some myth busting if you like, but we're gonna talk about the topic of the era of redemption and the coming of the Messiah, Mashiach, which, as we'll see a little bit later, is the foundation of the Jewish belief system. Nothing in Judaism has been so central in our belief system, besides perhaps the belief in one God, as the belief in the coming of the Messiah. As a matter of fact, Maimonides, the Rambam, who's a 12th, 11th century scholar, who was perhaps one of the most famous scholars of the 11th century, and until today his works are known around, I believe, in Egypt, which was his home where he lived. He was very popular amongst the Gentiles as well. He was a famous physician known as Maimonides. He transcribed what he referred to as the 13 principles of faith, the 13 principles of the Jewish faith. And those 13 principles included the belief in the coming of the Messiah, the belief that Messiah will come. And it's something which is the bedrock of our Jewish belief system. And as many scholars before, I personally believe that without the belief in the Messiah, without the reality and the knowledge that the Messiah, an era of redemption, will arrive imminently, can arrive imminently, Judaism as we know it today would not even be surviving, because hanging on to that belief and cleaving to that belief is what has given the Jewish people so much hope throughout the centuries. And of course, it is not a false hope, but rather a realistic hope, which can actualize itself at any given day. So without introduction, once again, if you'd like to chime in and ask any questions or if something you want to be addressed, please feel free to, but let's jump right into our conversation. So typically, when you say the era, Messiah, redemption, Mashiach, a lot of these things are very fuzzy. People don't necessarily know what they mean. But I want to take us back to perhaps the very first time the Jewish people were redeemed. They were in exile and they were redeemed. Anyone want to give a shot at it? What was the first time the Jewish people were redeemed? I'm hesitant to call on people that I'm meeting for the first time, but if anyone wants to chime in, and the Jewish people, when were they redeemed for the very first time? They were in exile, and then there was a redemption. Anyone recall when that happened? It has very much to do with the holiday that we celebrated.
We celebrated about 49 days ago.
There you go. Thank you, Mr. Saul, for chiming in. A holiday we celebrate about 49, almost a little less than 49 days ago, Passover. Good, thank you. The Jewish holiday we celebrated 49 days ago is the holiday of Passover. The Jewish people were in exile, and they were persecuted, and they were in a place where they cannot live freely, and they were redeemed. They were in a sense of redemption. In order to understand what does redemption really mean, and what does it really mean that the Jewish people will be redeemed with the era of the coming of Mashiach, the coming of the Messiah, let's first understand what actually does. Let's go back to the very first time the Jewish people were redeemed, and let's understand what happened at that time. What was the redemption? What was the exile? And what was the redemption? What were they in exile from? And what were they redeemed to? So let's talk about Passover a little bit. Let's talk about the situation of the Jewish people. This is not a Passover class. I don't want to get lost on a tangent. Let's talk specifically about the exile and the redemption. In order to know about the exile, what specifically got the Jews, got them, and really, really got under their skin, we'll look at some of the verses, although I don't have that on my source sheet. I'll pull up the source sheet in a minute, and we'll talk more about the current redemption that we're waiting for. But the Messiah, during the era of Egypt, when the Jews left Egypt, when they left Egypt, God said to them, I am taking you out of Egypt in order so that you shall serve me on this mountain. The mountain obviously referring to the mountain of Mount Sinai, where the Jewish people 49 days after leaving Egypt, they got the Torah. And when they received the Torah on Mount Sinai, they received their ultimate freedom. God made it very clear in the Torah when he took them out of Egypt, the purpose of the redemption is to bring you to Mount Sinai where you will serve God. So if we think about it on a little bit of a deeper level, the whole purpose of the redemption was in order so that they can serve God. So their biggest pain, their exile, was in a situation where they did not have the unlimited potential to serve God to the maximum. What does that mean? Being that God, the omnipresent, is the creator of all existence. God is the one, the very first entity, the very first being, the ultimate truth. He's the one that all things extend from. Nothing in the world exists without him. He's the creator of all creations. He's the thing that existed before any creation outside existed. The entire world could not exist without God's existence. And I was talking about this with some of my, I teach high school students as well, and I was talking about this concept, this idea of God being the ultimate creator, the existence, the bedrock of all existences, and the foundation which everything comes from. And it's a very deep concept, and it's not what we're going to talk about today. But we talked about this idea, and I posed the following question to them. I said, how bad would it be if, God forbid, there would be two gods? What would that, let's just say, for argument's sake, that there were two gods. One God created certain things, another God created certain things. One God is a power over this, another God is a power over that. We took on launching the conversation. And one of the boys came up with the following parable, which I thought was brilliant and put it right on point. He said, Rabbi, do you think we could play the Super Bowl with two different sets of officiating officials? Let's say the Steelers and the Chiefs were in the Super Bowl, and each team got to bring their set of officiating officials, and each one played by the rules of their officiators. He said, Rabbi, certainly that'll be the most ridiculous Super Bowl ever played in the world. You can't play a game of anything if both sides of the team, two players in the same game, are playing by a different set of rules. There has to be one ultimate truth. There has to be one thing which says this is the rule and not that. This is what happened and not that. You can only have one set of officiating staff on every game. Pulling that back to the existence of God and the existence of the world, if, God forbid, someone were to say there may be two gods, can you imagine what kind of chaos that would throw the world into? So what is the ultimate truth? What if the ideal from this God and the ideal from that God clash with each other? Which one wins? Which value system will I be pulled by? The Jewish belief system and the ultimate truth that there is only one God, and there must only be one God, because ultimate truth can only be one thing. Now, I'm not getting into perceptives of truth. from my perception or your perception, because obviously when we're looking at it from the other side, there can be many different truths. Everyone can have their own ideas of certain things. But when you're looking at it from the ultimate perception, from the perception of ultimate truth, take, for example, if I have a glass full of water and the glass is colored, say, transparent blue. If you're looking at it from the top, you'll see the clear water. If you're looking at it from the outside, you'll see blue water. So the ultimate truth is looking at it from the top. That's the ultimate truth. The perception is when I'm looking at it from the outside, when I see the glass water that's tainted blue and it's making the water look blue. So there can only be one real truth. Perception, there can be many different truths. Life experiences can create our perceptions, which create different truths for you. But that's not the ultimate truth. That's not real. Real truth is only sourced in one real entity, which is one existence, which is one God. So anything that is really true, anything that has a source in truth comes from God. Getting off on a tangent, but pulling back to our topic. When the Jewish people were redeemed from Egypt, they were now free to reunite with this ultimate truth. They were slaves. They were in Egypt. They were put under persecution. They didn't have the ability to serve God. They weren't able to. They were put in a position where obviously terrible conditions physically, which led to terrible conditions spiritually, and they had no relationship with the ultimate truth. They had no revelations of God. They had no relationships with being able to just give over their value system to a higher being, to a higher entity, to turn to God and say, God, you created me. I am here to serve you, because they were under the powers of other gods, pharaohs and other gods, which believed that they controlled the way the Jewish people should go. There's your God, the Jewish people's God, but said Pharaoh, you'll do what I say, not what God said. So now the Jewish people are in a position where there's two officiators. They believed in God. Pharaoh said, sorry, you believe in God, but here's my value system. I'm actually another God. It was chaos. It was chaotic. It caused terrible situation for them physically. It caused a terrible situation for them spiritually. And it was total, that's real exile, my friends. God said, redemption, taking you out of Egypt. What I'm doing is I'm now allowing you to recognize and realize the ultimate truth, real truth. You can now, and that's why, my friends, Mount Sinai, what happened to Mount Sinai? One of the greatest things that happened at Mount Sinai was the revelation of God at Mount Sinai. Powerful, powerful concept. God revealed himself to the Jewish people. What does that mean, God revealed himself? The Jews were able to see God. They saw his existence. They were able to see it. It is the only time in recorded history where there is even a claim of a mass revelation to an entire people. There is no other religious group or no other entity that I know of, and I don't think that I've never heard otherwise. So and I've done research on this. There is no other group that claims even that there was a mass group. There was a mass revelation. Someone's here posting, so maybe that was from before. There's no other group that claimed that there was a mass revelation of a God to them. And if you know otherwise, please let me know. And there's a simple reason why, because it never happened. Other religions may claim that there was a revelation to a prophet from God, and the prophet then revealed the revelation to a people. So you have God, or a perceived God, a prophet, and then the masses. There could be such a revelation. There's no other time in recorded history where there's such a claim of an entire nation seeing such an existence. And why is that so significant? Because that creates almost an impossibility of error. When someone claims that they had a revelation, you're putting your entire trust on that individual if they had the revelation or not. Now, if a nation comes along and throughout the past 3,000 years of recorded history, we have that millions of people stood at Mount Sinai, and millions of people saw God revealing himself to the Jewish people. Millions of people don't all come up with the same lie. Millions of people don't all have the same epiphany. Millions of people don't have the same mirage. Millions of people, if they all saw it, it happened. And Judaism is the only one that lays claim to such a thing because it actually happened. And that's ultimate freedom, a revelation of God, being able to experience that oneness, that ultimate truth, connecting to something that is real, connecting to a revelation of the ultimate truth, the existence of the world is all dependent on this one true God. That's what the Jewish people experienced at the mountain, Mount Sinai. Shavuos is coming. We're about to get the revelation, the receiving of the Torah all over again, as discussed in many Kabbalistic and Hasidic books, that in the spiritual level, the cosmic levels, they don't just go live. It's not just by time, but it's also by space. In other words, the revelations that happen on any specific day, trying to get the best words for it, not revelations, but rather energies that infuse any given day are the same every year. So the cosmic energies on Shavuos are the same every single year. The energies on Passover, the energies on any given day are the same every year. So therefore, the same energies that were experienced by the actual giving of the Torah on a cosmic level on Shavuos some 3,000 years ago are re-experiencing them and being reinfused in the atmosphere, in the spiritual atmosphere, this year on Shavuos. So we're having all this experience and come together, and there we have this opportunity to have this tremendous, tremendous revelation of God. That's why, by the way, it's a little known fact in many Hasidic circles, but it's something which is brought down in many, many, many Jewish books. The last day of Passover, we actually celebrate the Messiah. In some communities, we have something which is called the Mashiach Su'uda, which is Messiah's meal. It's a whole meal dedicated to the Messiah. We're celebrating Messiah coming. Did Messiah come on the last day of Passover? Not that I know of. I wish he had. But we know he didn't. Passover passed. Messiah's not here yet. But yet, every single year on Passover, many communities celebrate Messiah's day. It's Messiah's celebration. Because the coming of Messiah is so connected to Exodus from Egypt. It's the same concept. We're yearning for a time where there will be godly revelation. The ultimate truth will be revealed to everybody. The real value system of the world will be revealed to everybody. Everybody will know what is good and what is bad. Everybody will know what is true and what is a lie. Because truth we'll get to the source of it. We're not going to be interpreting rules of a sports game based on the way different referees interpret them. There's one referee, he knows all the laws, he wrote the laws, and he's going to tell us what's moral, what's not. Not only is he going to tell us, we're going to see why it's moral. We're going to see why it's true. We're going to see why it makes sense. That's the revelation of God is synonymous with the revelation of the ultimate truth, because God is the revelation of the ultimate truth. And that, in a very big nutshell, encapsulates what the era of redemption is going to look like. Many people are very concerned about the era of redemption. I'm actually having a good life today. I'm having a good life today. And why do I necessarily need the era of redemption? I'm making money. I'm doing well. Why do I need God to reveal himself? Why do I need this guy Messiah to come and to bring godliness into the world, to gather all the Jewish people together and build the third temple? What do I really need it for? Well, when you think of it from that perspective, that what the era of redemption really means is that there's going to be no real change, yet drastic change. There's not going to be any real change in the world. According to Maimonides, the world's going to remain exactly the way it is. But there's going to be such a drastic change because everybody will have their perspective of ultimate truth. Everyone will see things from God's lens. Imagine if you were able to see a spaceship from the lens of the engineer that crafted it. You'd see unlimited potential. If you're just a guy that's coming to tighten some screws at the end, all you know is the bolts that you got to tighten. You're very focused. You have one area of expertise. You know how to tighten knobs. So you come in and you do your job and you leave. You have no idea how the spaceship is getting to the moon. But if you're the engineer that created it, all of a sudden you're able to see all the unlimited potential. You can see how much you can do and how much power you can put into one tiny machine. The times of Messiah is going to usher in an era where everybody sees it from the engineer's perspective. Everybody sees it from God's perspective. So you're going about your daily chores and you got to make a decision. Instead of being focused and zeroed in on your narrow little world that you live in, where you see things only from you're going to have this tremendous pragmatic view where you're going to be able to see everything, not just from your vision, but you're going to be able to see everything from the vision that God presents himself. Now, that presents us with a problem because we live in a time, okay, pre-COVID 2019, pre-COVID 2020, pre-COVID-19, pre the year 2020, when the world was pretty normal, when things were the way they were supposed to be. Not lots of people had it tough, but lots of people had it good. Lots of people were extremely, extremely settled down in the world. They knew exactly what they were doing. They had happy lives. Good Jews. They knew exactly what they needed from themselves. They had good businesses. They had grandchildren that were healthy. They had children that were healthy. They were happy with their marriage. Why would I pray every single day in my prayers for the Erev redemption? What's the point of it? Why go there? I'm happy. I'm living the good life. So it's interesting because there are so many times throughout history that we've grappled with this, and perhaps the time that we're living in now is the best time to talk about Messiah. Because now's the time where we realize no matter how comfortable we get with one little jolt of one tiny microcosm, one tiny little virus that can change up the entire world in such a drastic way, no matter how comfortable you are, you're still only a tiny virus away from turning your entire life upside down. So in times like this, people all of a sudden awaken and they all want to talk about, so what is Messiah actually like? My cell phone's been buzzing. People want to know, what exactly are we talking about? When you say Messiah, what are you talking about? Why is it coming? Why do I want it? Why the sparked interest? Because all of a sudden we're being jolted from our comfort zone. All of a sudden we're not comfortable anymore. But here's what we always have to remember. We never really were comfortable. What do I mean by that? If they say this story about the Hasidic master, his name was Hillel Paritcher. There was a city in Ukraine, it was called Parich, and the Hasidic masters often were known after the names where the cities which they lived. That's where the name Lubavitch comes from. You have a Chabad Chassid, a Lubavitcher Chassid. The name Lubavitch comes from the city where the movement was founded. So this individual was a Hasidic master. He lived in the late 1700s. He was a student of the first Chabad Rebbe, Reb Shneir Zalman of Liadi, the Baal HaTanya, and his name was Reb Hillel Paritcher, a great Hasidic master. He wrote many, many books on Hasidic philosophy. And they say a story that he was once with some friends. Sorry, my speaking acting funny. He was once sitting with some friends, and they were having a schmooze, and they were talking about different things. And they were drinking some wine, and the last bottle of wine ran out. And they said, who's going to go to the cellar to get another bottle of wine? Get from the barrels downstairs. So he offered, I'll go to the cellar. He gets down to the cellar, and he's trying to find the wine, and he calls up upstairs. He says, it's so dark down here, I can't find the wine. I can't see anything. So one of his friends yelled down, Hillel, don't worry. Stay down there for a little bit longer, and your eyes will get used to the dark, and it'll get very comfortable. And you'll be able to see. Hillel found the wine. He came upstairs, and he said to his friends, he was someone who always learned a lesson from everything he saw. He said to his friends, you see, my friends, that's the problem. It's dark, but our eyes get used to the dark. And when they get used to the dark, we forget that we're even in darkness. We get so comfortable, we forget that it's dark out there. And that's what happens sometimes. I mean, we find this, we're all Pittsburghers, at least most of us are all Pittsburghers. We know, we experience this firsthand. We get so comfortable, anti-Semitism, it's all good. There's no, anti-Semitism doesn't exist. We get so blinded, we don't want to see it, we don't see it. Then all of a sudden, something like what happened last year completely jolted us in our own communities. Anti-Semitism does exist. You need to be jolted. We're comfortable in exile. Our eyes got used to the dark. We're used to the darkness. We don't, who do you care? Why do I need to jolt this up? My friend, it's dark. You don't see things from the perspective of the ultimate truth. You don't see things from the way they are. But then comes the virus, and the virus comes and jolts us and says, hey, my friends, it actually is dark outside, and you're not very comfortable, and there isn't very ultimate truth. So that's why I would think in previous generations, when they had it tougher, redemption was spoken about much more because they had it tough, and they wanted it much more badly. And therefore, they really, really defined their desire for redemption based on their experiences. In our generation, where our experiences are much different, our desire for redemption wasn't nearly as much as we've wanted it. But I'm going to share my screen for a moment because I want to look at some text to talk about the actual Erev redemption. If anyone has any questions, again, feel free to chime in while I'm grabbing this my screen over here. I think, David, I can share my screen, correct?
Correct.
There we go. think everyone should see my screen by now. Um, all right, here. So we have the first.
All right, everybody. It looks like Rabbi may have froze here. Hopefully he'll be back in a moment. Hang tight. I'm just going to message him real quick.
Are we still there?
Yes, we are.
I don't know what's going on here. I apologize, everybody. I'm having issues with my computer. All of a sudden, I got bumped off of the Zoom meeting, and it's not letting me log back on. But I'll be here with my phone as soon as I just get myself connected to my speaker system here. Okay, I think we should be there. Do you hear me now? So, excellent. Okay, perfect. Thank you. I'm not sure what happened there, but I will. Hopefully my phone will suffice. So the only problem is now I won't be able to share my screen because I jumped off on my phone, but there's only a couple of texts here, so I'll just read them out loud. And hopefully we'll be able to discuss them together. Well, the sources for prophets, the sources for the Messiah are scattered throughout the entire Tanakh. All the books that comprise the written tradition are filled with sources for the Messiah. And one of the very locations, you find them in Isaiah, there's filled with them, back to the 5 books of Moses, in the prophecy of Bilam, you have all the discussions about Messiah coming. And over there, apologize. And one of the things, and one of the most famous verses that are discussed when it talks about the Messiah is a well-known verse, and it goes as follows. And I'll read a couple of them in a row. And a wolf shall lie with the lamb, a leopard shall lie with the goat. The land shall be full with the knowledge of God as water covers the seabed. He shall gather the lost of Israel and the scattered ones of Judah. He shall gather them from all corners of the earth. Ephraim shall not envy Judah, nor shall Judah envy Ephraim. You have all this, this large spectrum of different verses that talk about what's it going to be like when the Messiah comes. So let's dissect them one by one. When it says the wolf will lie with the lamb. So according to Maimonides, the Rambam, as we've discussed, who's one of the big authorities, Maimonides was one of the only ones who actually wrote written law of the times of Messiah. Most other authorities stayed away from it because it wasn't practical for today, even though Messiah can come in any moment, but they were written for Jews living in exile. Since Jews living in the times of the Messiah wasn't a present day issue that they were dealing with, they didn't write the laws of the Messiah. Maimonides was one of the only ones. So Maimonides says, the wolf lying with the lamb
is a metaphor for a time where Jews will all live in peace with the other nations of the world. And any nation that fought with the other nations would now be at peace with each other. But think about it for a moment. If there's the ultimate truth, which is revealed to everybody, automatically arguments dissipate. They go away. They're not there anymore. If there is no issue whatsoever of having, if there is, when you have different perspectives and everyone's looking at it from the other side of the glass, then everyone's arguing. Well, what color is it? Well, it depends. Are you looking at it through the white glass, the blue glass, the purple glass? That's how you see the water. But if everyone's looking at it from the top, everyone sees the same. There's no arguments anymore. So the wolf lying with the lamb is just a natural outcome of the coming of the Messiah. The wolf lying with the lamb is an obvious outcome because we now all agree. There's nothing to argue about anymore. There's no discussion. Now we're all part of the same team. We all see the same ultimate truth. So then the second part of the verse that we said, that the world will be filled with the knowledge of God. The land shall be filled with the knowledge of God as water covers the seabed. Same concept, same idea. Knowledge of God is the essence, knowing that God exists and knowing that he's the only referee. The whole world's filled with it, and ultimately we'll be together, which is a fascinating note to mention. The word olam. Olam means world, like from tikkun olam, perfecting the world. Olam means the word world. The same word olam can also mean the word helam. It's, you take the letters, you change them around a little bit in Hebrew, but using the same letters, you get the word helam. Now in Hebrew, helam means, in Hebrew, helam means concealment. So the world is a place of concealment. What's being concealed in the world? The existence of God. Once you have that concealment taken away, the time of the era of Messiah, there's no more concealment anymore. There's no more covering over God's existence. Now there's no more fighting anymore. We all know the knowledge of God, so therefore there's no reason to fight with each other. Then it talks about the lost Jews, that will gather all the Jews, they shall gather the lost of Israel, scatter the ones of Messiah is going to come, and Messiah is a person, an individual who will be appointed by God, and he will arrive, and he'll gather all of the Jews together and bring them back to Israel. The lost Jews, according to the Kabbalistic mystics, don't just refer to Jews that are physically lost, Jews that may be scattered in different points throughout the geography of, throughout the map in the world. Those for sure will gather. But lost Jews can also refer to another type of loss. Halacha calls them a tinok shenishba, a Jew who may be so assimilated that he doesn't even know he's a Jew. He's lost his identity. He doesn't recognize who he is. So the era of redemption, again, it's all getting back to that bottom point. When truth is revealed, everyone knows who they are, and therefore they will all come back to their real existence. And if it's a Jew, he'll realize he's a Jew and he will come back to his people. So again, getting back to our quintessential point here, that the coming of Messiah is really no change at all, yet drastic change. Because the world doesn't change, it's our view of the world that changes. And finally, the last verse that we read over there is the verse of Ephraim shall not envy Judah, nor shall Judah envy Ephraim. If you studied ever a little bit of Jewish history, Ephraim and Judah represent two kingdoms. After King Solomon's death, the Jewish people, the Jewish kingdom was united. There was only one king up until King Solomon's death. When King Solomon died, there was a big split among the Jewish people. They went into two camps, the camp of Judah and the camp of Ephraim, which was also Yosef. They were arch enemies. There were wars in between these two camps of the Jewish people. Although ultimately they were one people because they all came from the same Jewish existence, they were really two separate entities, two separate kingdoms. And they fought. They were arch enemies. But Messiah comes, the prophecy says that there will be no arch enemies among the Jewish people. Again, prophesizing the same idea, the same concept, that it's going to be the era of redemption, that where ultimate truth exists, you no longer will have any issues of, I'm just trying one more time, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get back on the computer because I'm having now issues with my phone, of course, and I think here I am. I'm going to log off on my phone and I'm right with you here.
All right. Back in. I think I am. Okay, here we are. Back on my computer. So let me share my screen here so you can see the next text that I want to explore here for a moment. The next text I have over here is Maimonides. This gets back to what we discussed of Maimonides' principles of faith. And his principles of faith are etched in the minds of so many individuals and so many people. And here they are. I believe with perfect faith in the coming of the Messiah. Even though he may tarry, nonetheless, I wait for his coming every single day. This is something that the Jewish people have lived with throughout the generations. There's a very powerful story told of a chassid, a Hasidic individual in 1943. He was on his way to Treblinka, one of the Nazi gas chamber camps, where most Jews that came there, that went there, didn't come out of there. And on the way to the camp, packed with Jews from all over the world, no one knew where they were going or what exactly was happening. They were crammed into one tiny little existence. And people are dropping like flies all over. And he starts saying the words, Ani Mamin, I believe with perfect faith in the coming Messiah, professing his belief in Mashiach coming. And he was a prolific chazan, and he started composing this beautiful tune, this beautiful song to those words of I believe with perfect faith in the coming of Mashiach, and had a gorgeous melody. I'm not a chazan, nor can I barely hold a tune, so I'm not going to attempt to sing it for you. But it's a well-known tune, known among the many Jewish communities of Ani Mamin, B'Emunah Shlema, especially in Hasidic communities. And as he was singing this tune, he said to the individuals on the train, if any of you are able to bring this tune to my Rebbe, who was then the Mojitzer Rebbe, who was living at the time in New York, who had already managed to escape Europe, and share this tune with him, I am prepared to give up my entire share in the world to come, just so you can get this tune to him. Of course, how's anyone going to get these tunes to the Mojitzer Rebbe? They're all on the way to the gas chamber. So most of the individuals that were on that train went to the gas chambers, and we never heard from, including the composer, whose name is known as well. But two young guys, young teenagers, who were on the train at the time, they managed to escape, and they were saved. They remembered the incident, and they traveled to New York, and they went to the Mojitzer Rebbe, and they told the Mojitzer Rebbe the story of how it happened, and they shared the musical notes with him of how the tune went down. The Rebbe was listening to this amazing, powerful song, and he turned to the boys and he said, with this tune, the Jews have marched to the gas chambers, professing their belief in the Messiah. With this tune, the Jews will march towards the Messiah and greet him as they march towards Jerusalem. So this belief that the Rambam Maimonides professes is a core belief in Judaism is something which Jews walked to the gas chambers with. It kept their faith intact. It kept them sane in insane times. It kept them in a place where they were able to be mentally stable, although there was nothing mentally fit about their situation that they found themselves during the current time, other than their belief hanging on to the coming of Mashiach. But I find something fascinating in what the Rambam writes here in Maimonides. Remember, what's his text here? I don't know if I'm still sharing my screen or not. Stop share, start share, and there we are again. What's fascinating about what the text is that he writes is not just I believe with perfect faith in the coming of the Messiah, because that's a commandment in the Torah, you have to. But he goes a step further. He says, not just believe, but I await his coming every single day. So according to Maimonides, we have to expect him daily. When is he going to come? Maimonides was a pretty smart guy. Maimonides was a guy who wrote thousands of books, and the entire Torah Judaism was resting on his shoulders during his period of time. And he made it very clear. You have a mitzvah, you have a command, part of your principles of faith of the Jewish people. Remember the 13 principles that a Jewish person has to believe in. Among those principles are the most powerful ones, like believing in a God, not bowing down to idols, God's unity, most powerful principles of faith. Await his coming every single day. Don't just believe that he can come, await for him. That means every day you gotta be prepared for the potential that today may be a day that the Messiah may come and will begin an era of redemption/revelation. Redemption doesn't mean there's a big scary beast of the entire world turning over. Redemption means clarity. We're now going to see it transparent. There's no colored glass anymore. It's transparent, see-through glass, where we now see the world as it is, and we're all playing by the same rules and the same background. So important to remember, The commandment is just as equally, if not more important, to anticipate his coming, as important as it was to believe in his coming. Anticipation is equal to belief in this essence as it was. So, to sum this up, the world may look a little crazy. It looks like a jungle. It looks nuts. COVID-19 spreading throughout the world. Nobody knows what in the world is going on. But recognizing that from our perspective, it looks like a jungle. It looks crazy. It looks nuts. But from God's perspective, he sees the transparent view. There's a master plan here. Everything makes sense. And one of the things which I always found the most powerful was, there's a famous question of why do bad things happen to good people and why do good things happen to bad people? It goes back, that's a question that Jews have been asking all the way back to the times of Moses. Now, as crazy as it is, people are still trying to find out the answer to that question. As insane as that sounds, that since Moses they've been asking it and no good answer has come about, people are still trying to, and books are written on how could it happen? The most powerful thing which I found was in a letter that the Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, wrote to an individual who went through tremendous suffering in his life. And he experienced the Holocaust, and even after the Holocaust, he experienced hardships in his family life, terrible things, just understanding what he went through. And he went to many rabbis, and each rabbi tried to explain to him, God is testing you, God is this to you, and it's because of this sin, maybe that's that sin, and maybe it's because the Jewish people did A, B, and C. And the Rebbe in his response said the most powerful thing. He says, if God is the ultimate truth, and God is ultimately fair and good, completely, through and through, so the smallest travesty should raise as big a question as the largest travesty. What do I mean by that? If you have, let's get back to our sports example. If you have a referee who has a 100% track record to get it right, every single time he gets it right, he never botches a single call. The potential to blow that 100% track record, to blow it, lies as much in the call at the end of the game of the Super Bowl where there's a half a second left and all the stakes are completely high. It's a tie game and he botches a pass interference as much as it is in the first quarter of a meaningless game where he botches a holding call. Either one that he botches, he blew his 100% track record. He's no longer in that league anymore. He's in a different league. You used to be 100% all good calls. You botched it in a high stakes game or in a game that was meaningless. You botched your track record. You're no longer that referee. You're good, but you're not ultimate. You're not the ultimate referee who gets everything right. Let's pull it back to God. If God is the ultimate truth, if God is the ultimate justice, if God is ultimate fair, the smallest injustice pulls him out of that category as much as the largest injustice does. An injustice such as COVID-19, and an injustice such as the dog ate my homework, or I slept in and missed my friend's birthday party, takes him out of his track record. So the challenge, says the Rebbe, not that I have an answer for your question, but the Rebbe says, understanding that we don't just not understand God's ways when it comes to the big things, we don't understand his ways when it comes to the little things. And understanding that, recognize that you're going to have to be comfortable with not understanding. You know why? Because you're seeing it from the other end. You're seeing it from the other side of the cup where there's a glass covering that's dyed pink. So you're seeing pink water or blue water. You don't see it from God's angle. You don't see the ultimate truth. Messiah comes, everything will be revealed. We'll see God's master plan. We'll see God. We'll know God. We'll understand him. We'll see his master plan. Then those questions will be answered. But it's going to be impossible for you to understand the answers to those questions, the large travesty, the minor, until you have a full understanding of what God is. And you're not going to have that full understanding until you get that revelation. You're not getting that revelation until the coming of Mashiach, the era of redemption. So there's going to be a period of time where we're just going to have to say, we don't know. It's not fair. It seems very unjust to us. These things should not have happened. We just don't understand God's ways. And we won't understand them until we have the revelation of God. I want to sum up with the
I
final.
was going to say you have about 3 or 4 minutes here.
Perfect timing. Because I want to sign up with the final text. And the text comes from the Tanya of the Alter Rebbe, the Alter Rebbe, the first Chabad Rebbe, who authored the Tanya, which is probably the most well-known and the most famous book of Hasidic writings. Is my screen still shared? I lost it. You still see my text here. All right. So let's see if I can find it now. It is... Okay, I'm not going to mess around, but I'm assuming it's there somewhere. The text goes as follows. Where are we over here? You see text number 3, Tanya, chapter 37. This culminating fulfillment of the Messianic era, which will consist of the revelation of God's infinite light in this material world, depends on our actions in exile. By virtue of performing mitzvot, a person suffuses God's infinite light from above downwards to be clothed in the physical presence of the world. Which here the Alter Rebbe is saying. The author of the Tanya tells us as follows, and we really need an hour and a half on this, but I'm going to try to do I won't do justice in 1 minute, but I'm going to try. The Alter Rebbe says as follows, that how is it going to happen? Okay, we get it. I heard it. I know why I should want it. I know when it's going to happen. It's going to happen at any moment. But how do we get it to happen? What causes it? That is completely up to us. Our performance of mitzvot, doing mitzvot, are the ultimate connection to God. By us connecting to God through the performance of mitzvot, we are basically saying, God, we're making space for you, for your revelation. What do I mean by that? If I would be moving into your house, and you are, say you're a son or a relative of mine, who really wants to make me comfortable, you call me up and you say, what are your favorite foods? You get your my favorite foods prepared. When I come to your house, I'm feeling very comfortable. Thank you. You made me feel very comfortable. You made me feel welcome. Mitzvot are God's favorite food. You want me revealed here? You want to see the revelation of the ultimate truth? That's going to be through you doing mitzvahs. You put my favorite foods down there, I'll be comfortable and I'll be able to express myself. I remember, ultimate redemption is God's ultimate expression. When God expresses himself fully, then we have redemption. We're able to see from the ultimate truth. The more mitzvahs we do, the more comfortable we make him feel. And just to finish off, that's where the root word of the word tikkun olam comes from, fixing the world. What does it mean to fix the world? To do more mitzvot, to create an existence where God feels like he can exist and rest himself in that world, and he feels comfortable. Ultimately, we fix the world. How so? By revealing ultimate truth into the world. And by doing that, we're able to experience that, and all the other problems fall to the wayside because we're all on the same page. So with that, I'm wishing everybody a truly joyous and happy holiday of Shavuos. We should all really merit and internalize the words of the Torah. Celebrate as best you can with family and friends. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and I hope you gained some insightful new information tonight.
Thank you so very much, Rabbi. Chag Sameach, everybody. I just wanted to let you know in the chat, I did put in the links to the next session for session 3. You may have received an email. You can use those links, or you can just quickly click on one of these and jump in. A couple of them are full, so if you're unable to enter into one, that may be the reason why. But if you did receive your email, you should be able to get into that particular Zoom link, no problem. Again, thank you so very much, Rabbi. It was wonderful. And I hope everybody has a wonderful holiday.